We've just gone through another phase of expansion and contraction, which has really been the hallmark of 2024. July is now moving into an expanded state, and you're probably feeling that as it feels like things are lifting a bit. It might feel like there's more space around you, more space in your life, more time to flow and do things at a slower pace. So I'm going to talk more about that and this continued cycle of expansion and contraction that we've been in since January of this year. And I'm going to tell you about the Metatron frequencies from the month of June that also contribute to this, and give you a message from a galactic about the new quantum field that's opening to us with this new timeline that's coming in. So lots to talk about. I'm Paige, energy healer and channel, and this is your July energy update. I would like to take a minute to ask you to please do like and subscribe if you enjoy this content, and please do put your comments below and share. I do appreciate all of that, and it really helps a lot. So expansions and contractions. This has really been fascinating, and it's becoming more and more clear how this pattern is playing out. Now, if we go all the way back to, I think it was December or January, I had this message come in that was the only prediction that I really had for 2024, which was that we were going to be experiencing continual processes of expansion and contraction as we move through this evolutionary and awakening process that we are in collectively. And I've talked about it a little bit. I think back in February or March, there was a really pronounced period where it felt like things just became chaotic and intense for a while, and then they calmed down. That's a really good example of contraction in that chaotic and intense period, and then expansion. And another great example is just from June to July. And my last energy update, which was around the 10th of June, we were in this very nice expanded state. And I was talking about how we were in this, it felt like an elevated process, a higher process that was kind of circling. And I would say that that process is still going. It's kind of a background piece. So we were in that process and in an expanded state. And literally just a couple days after I posted that, the energy shifted and we were moving back into what I would call a contracted state, where it felt like all of a sudden there was just a lot going on. And this is what you might be feeling in your life. A lot of people were reflecting this back, that it just felt like there was a lot going on in their lives, like layers. And it wasn't necessarily frenetic or chaotic or a lot of pressure, just a lot, maybe felt like a lot to keep up with. And the other thing that was going on was that there were these, I think this is the Uranian energy, but these surprise events happening for people, sort of out of the blue, left and right, some really good, some really bad, just kind of shocking at times, and some that were less shocking but unexpected. So it was just kind of a faster pace, and again, lots of things compressed, right, into a time period. So that's a good example of contraction, a contracted state. Now we've moved into a new expanded state just in the last couple of days, and I'm filming this on July 12th, so you might notice what you've been feeling in the energy. So I would say as of about yesterday, the day before, maybe between the two, it started to shift again. So we are moving into a lighter, expanded state again. And this has been the process of upward movement. So if you were to imagine this sort of expansion and contraction happening in a column moving upward, that would be probably a good depiction of this process that we're in collectively as we move from lower vibrational states to higher vibrational states, because that's what the collective evolutionary process is all about. It's about shifting in vibration. It's about shifting your frequency. Because when we move into higher frequencies and we're living from higher frequencies, we don't resonate anymore with those lower frequencies, with the hatred, the resentment, the anger, the rage, the conflict, the tension. All of that stuff, those really heavy things, become more distant. And it's a felt distance. So you'll start to notice this in your life, and you should. I know a lot of you are feeling this because a lot of you have told me about this. we're in very big shifts. So we are in that shift collectively. It also means that each one of you individually is in this shift. So think about that for yourself. Think about where you were. Think about where you are. Think about how this year has gone. Think about phases, because expansion and contraction is a push to a new phase. Each time we move through one of those periods, we move into a new phase. And that takes me to the Metatron frequencies from the month of June. Now, these, of course, are the frequencies that come through in the free channeling that I offer on the Insight Timer every month. I will put a link in the description below so you can check those out. Please do join me if you haven't done that before. This is a channeling with a message and powerful frequency transmissions. So you'll be receiving that energy if you're there present. You can also listen to the recordings that are here on my YouTube channel. They do have ads that I cannot remove, and I apologize for that. There's absolutely nothing I can do about it. But do know that if you listen, you're still getting the frequency. So I know ads are annoying, but the frequency is still there. It's still coming through. And if you look at the descriptions in those recordings, you'll see the frequencies that were coming through in each one of those sessions and what those frequencies mean. And that, of course, is all channeled information. I channel those on the day of the meditation. So for the month of June, I'm going to tell you what those frequencies were and how they play into where we are right now in this process that we're in. Okay, so for the month of June, we had first the rapid escalation of sensory integration within the human light field. We had the internalization of expanded forms, and then we had the reforming of light patterns. And what all of that came together as, with the theme of all of those as they blended, was the interchange between human light fields and incoming frequencies, and the outward expression of light forms once internalized. So that means we're taking something in, shifting of forms, internalization of expanded forms. So it's meaning we're not processing the same things that we've been processing in the past. These are new forms. It's expanded. That means expanding us on an internal level, reforming the light patterns in our fields, reforming the light patterns around us. We are made of light patterns. Your energy system is just a collection of light patterns. Our reality is a collection of light patterns. So all of this is shifting together. And of course, what that means is it's a leveling up as we internalize and then create the outward expression. After these forms have been internalized, that means that we're now expressing and projecting at a new level from a new place. So that is exactly the process that we're talking about as far as moving forward on this evolutionary track and in this process of expansion and contraction. So I hope that that comes together for you. I know it's a lot to throw at you. These are big concepts. You might want to just sit with that. You can look in the description of the June Metatron meditation and just read through those again and think about that for your own life. But that is exactly how this whole process works, and hopefully that explains a little bit more for you. And one final note on those meditations, if you'd like to receive 3 of those recordings with no ads, you can join my email list. The link is in the description below. Okay, now let's go to the message from a galactic for the month of July. But quickly, before we do that, I want to go back to the message that came through from another galactic in May, and that was an unnamed galactic. Basically that means it's a being who's new to me, and I don't know the name, but they are here for our highest good, and they have something to share, and they're working with humanity. So all good. But back in May, we had a message. Part of the message was that a new timeline was approaching and that we needed to prepare to release our collective history. So if you go back to the May energy update, I talk more in depth about that piece of the message and the rest of the message that came through. But I think that that is really important within the context of where we are right now, because it speaks to the message that came through for this month. So let me read that to you. Time is evolving, and you expand into a new quantum field of your collective reality. Direct your awareness to the lower levels of this experience, for it is here that you will find your biggest and most important challenges, not at the top. Yes, you should continue to proceed into higher states, but there will be friction at the bottom that must be addressed. You will experience this as turmoil in your societies as a result of the churning in the fabric of humanity. So I decided that maybe it was a better idea this time to slow this down a bit because, again, it's always a lot of information coming in. It's good information, and the messages that come through every month, they tend to build on one another or point us to the next place we're going. So we hear echoes of those messages from the past in each month. The first thing that really jumped out to me is the first line, that time is evolving, and we're expanding into a new quantum field of our collective reality. This speaks to this new timeline that's coming in. And I've checked in on this with my guides, and they're saying, yes, that's exactly what this is. This new quantum field is the opening of this new timeline. So if we want to just pause here for a minute and talk about timelines and what those are, you can think of a timeline as like a track or a path that's being set out for us. The one analogy I like to use is thinking of the people movers at the airport. You know, once you step onto the people mover, you're moving, and you don't have to work, you don't have to walk. You can, if you want to go more quickly, you can, but you can also just stand and still be carried once you're on, right? The trick is you have to get on. So timelines are very, very similar. It's an energetic pathway. So think about aligning with frequency to an energetic pathway. So once you're aligned, then you're on it, and it'll carry you, it'll take you. So we have this new timeline opening to us that has to do with the evolutionary process that we've been in our movement. And in the message last month that was from an Arcturian, the Arcturian shared that we had moved more quickly than anticipated. And so we were in a new place, and I think that also speaks to this opening that we're in, that we're moving very quickly here. That's why this new timeline is opening now to us, because we've already reached a new point where we're ready for this. So this new timeline is going to be like locking into a new experience from a level, again, of frequency or vibration. That means that going forward, you will stay in a higher place. Once you're on that timeline, you're going to stay there. You're not going to drop back down or do something wrong, or, whoops, you didn't meditate today and now you're going to fall backwards. That doesn't happen. You will just stay there because it takes a lot of work to get there in the first place. And we've all been doing the work, coming from the healing perspective, which is the work that I do. We have had a few years now of intense releasing and clearing. A lot of people have been feeling that. Even recently, I've noticed there's been kind of a purge of final pieces. That was at the end of June. So I also think that that's about the move to the new timeline. You can't move unless you've cleared out. You can't move forward unless you deal with the old stuff. So we've had to face a lot of the old stuff, difficult as it may be, but we're getting through it. We're all getting through it, and we're moving higher. We're pulling each other higher. We're doing it together, and that's a really important piece. Another important piece is the release of our collective history, which is about releasing the differences. It's about releasing the separation between us. The differences between cultures and ethnic groups and tensions and stories from the past that we identify with. We need to release those so that we move forward as one. And that this new timeline may in fact push us towards that. Now, what I also want to note that I think is really important about this message is that what we're being reminded of is that it's easy to get into a place where we're just looking forward. We're excited about moving forward, especially so many of you who've been doing this work, who've been doing such intensive personal work on yourselves, doing different approaches, doing meditations, working with channeled frequencies, all of these things that push us higher, but also kind of force us to look at our stuff and clear it out. And we have a tendency to be just looking forward at what's next, what's next, what's next, where can I go next? And this is telling us to remember to look back, that those of you who are working to always be moving forward are at the growing edge or the leading edge, right? Pushing this process. But then there's the other side of that process. There's the what we could call the other end, and it sounds as if there may be some drag at the other end, right? Where we're going to have some churning and turmoil. And I thought that was really interesting, this concept of the fabric of humanity, of the field of humanity. I think that's a nice way to put it, because we are all interwoven in our field. We are all connected. And so a churning in that fabric can really stir things up. So we may feel some of that. Ironically, coming at least in the United States, at a very intense time as we're moving into this next presidential election, and the inevitable churning and turmoil that comes with that. So it's a good reminder to just remember the others. Think about the other. Lend a helping hand. Have authentic, sincere, compassionate interactions with others, even though they may not share your viewpoint. Even though you may feel like you're coming from two different universes at times, that's okay. Right? We have to bridge those gaps. We have to come together. So this is a really good reminder to reach out to those in need, to remember that not everyone is moving as quickly and as easily. Okay, so I've said a lot. I hope that you're still here with me. A lot going on right now, and probably a lot more to come this month as we move through this next cycle. So I wish you all the best this month, and please, again, do like and subscribe if you enjoy this. Enjoy your month, and I will see you in August.